Hello, welcome back guys. This is kind of a special review of the Fractal Design Define XL filter size case. Look at the Fractal Design Define XL. From the first time you look at the case, you'll realize that it's really big. Rather than looking unmanageable though, it looks sleek and quite minimalistic. Scandinavians are renowned for their minimalistic but stylish object design, and Fractal is no exception to the rule. Included with the Define XL are some screws, a PCI slot fan controller for controlling the 3 included fans. Also included are a bundle of zip ties, a 5 1/4 to 3 1/2 inch bay cover adapter, and of course a manual. This must be the first one I've ever seen that doesn't contain any pictures. Maybe I haven't seen enough of them, but this one looks a bit empty to me. Despite the emptiness, it's very descriptive and clear. If you don't like to read, well, that's what these video reviews are for. The first thing you see of a case is mostly the front panel. The Define has a similar design to the R2 and the R3 cases, featuring this polished looking front door, which comes in 2 different color schemes, black and titanium grey. This, as you can see, is the black version. By opening the door that is held into place by magnetic force, you will immediately see the biggest trump card of the Fractal Design cases, the noise insulation. In order to provide you with one of the quietest or even the quietest case, Fractal has factory installed foam to absorb sound waves and to heavily reduce vibrations. This unfortunately makes this case incredibly heavy, bringing in a hefty 18.5 kilograms or 40.7 pounds for those of you that still haven't adapted the metric system. But getting back to the front panel of the case, you'll see 4 5 1/4 inch drive bays, a reset button, and by opening the little second door below, up to 2 140mm fans can be installed by pressing these lids to the right and pulling gently the panel towards you. Fans can be installed by fastening them with the mounting clips on the side of the front fan frame. Installing fans is quite easy, but removing them to clean, for instance, dust filters can be a bit tricky. You can also install an optional 120mm fan behind 3 of the 4 5 1/4 inch drive bays, leaving you with only one 5 1/4 inch drive bay. Both fan cages come with washable dust filters. Already installed in one of the 5 1/4 inch drive bays is a 3 1/2 inch to 5 1/4 inch drive bay adapter. The fans intake their air from the inlets on the left and the right side. On top, the front panel I/O contains 4 USB 2 ports, an external serial ATA port, a microphone and headphone jack, and the power button. One thing that I find a bit unusual is that there's no hard drive activity LED. It is also odd that no USB 3 ports are present, as USB 3 is really becoming a new standard. On the back of the Define XL, there's the exhaust for the 180mm fan and room for the included 140mm fan. If you don't like 140mm fans, well, you can install a 120mm fan instead. 2 holes for routing through your water cooling tubes, 7 regular expansion slots, and 1 here can also be found on the back of this case. The power supply can be installed on the bottom of this case. Note that there are really a lot of inlet holes here on the back of the case. Each side panel is fastened with 2 black thumb screws and has acoustic foam on it. By removing the side panel, you will immediately feel how incredibly heavy they have become due to the foam. You can install a 140 or 120mm fan for optimal airflow, or you can leave the foam here on the side panel for optimal silence. Fractal Design calls this the Modu vent. While the case's exterior isn't all that different from its little brothers, the inside is. Having divided it in 3 compartments, Fractal Design offers you to customize it to your needs. There is a power supply chamber separated with the hard drive chamber with this removable metal plate. Above them is the motherboard chamber with another hard drive cage, so you can install up to 10 hard drives in this case. The Define XL lets you install motherboards up to the extended ATX form factor. Plenty of cable management holes can be found around the motherboard tray, and in the power supply chamber there's one big cable management hole. When installing a long power supply though, the cable management hole in the bottom will be covered, which is quite a large design flaw. In order to reduce vibrations, Fractal Design has put rubber standoffs beneath the power supply, and here's some of the special noise absorbing foam as well. If the power supply is placed with the fan facing down, the removable dust filter in the bottom comes in very handy and it's easy to remove. If you prefer to have the fan taking air in from above, you can remove this plastic cover that separates the main and power supply chamber. In the hard drive chamber then you can install up to 6 hard drives on these trays, which have rubber inserts to prevent even the slightest vibrations. As this chamber isn't cooled by default, when not installing an additional 140mm fan in front or removing the plate that separates it, heat will slightly build up in this chamber as it is not enough ventilated. The air can get away behind the motherboard tray and then come out of the back, but cable mass can of course obstruct this airflow. In the main chamber then you can install another 4 hard drives and up to 4 optical drives if you don't install the optional 120mm fan. This cage is removable and rotatable. For optimal airflow you should align it with the airflow direction. The installation of neither hard drives nor optical devices is toolless, which I find a bit of a disappointment as toolless design really facilitates the installation a lot. In the motherboard tray, enough and conveniently located cable management holes have been arranged with rubber inserts which don't come out too easily. The 180mm fan on top unfortunately doesn't convince me. I understand why they haven't fitted it in the top panel, since this would have caused a lot more noise because it's very close to the CPU fan, but it's rather a waste of place here and it certainly doesn't move a lot of air. I would also have liked to see the possibility to mount fans in the top panel as you can in the R3, and I don't quite understand why they haven't included this feature in its bigger brother. It also seems that they maybe should have included more powerful fans, as the case is so long that there's almost no air reaching the CPU cooler from the front with the default fans. Your CPU temperature will thus increase a bit in this case comparing to the R3. The GPU temperature will be quite the same as it is long enough to intake enough air from the front. You will also be able to fit any graphics card in this case, even with the cage installed. And if it doesn't fit, it will eventually fit, since you can, as mentioned before, remove the hard drive cage. Behind the motherboard tray there is seemingly just enough space to hide your cables, and then there are a lot of punch out to bring some order into your cable mess. There's also one large hole for accessing the cooler's retention plate that can be hidden with this plastic cover. Building my rig into the Define XL was a piece of cake and it didn't take too long. Nevertheless, I would strongly suggest you to get yourself some 4 or 8 pin and 24 pin extension cables, because seriously otherwise you will end up with the same problem I had. The cables were too short to be run through all the cable management holes. This is no drama, but having extension cables makes it all just tidier and easier for you. Here's another look at my cable management. I used about 8 zip ties, which is exactly the same amount as Fractal Design includes with this case. The case creates a sort of mixed feeling with me, and I'll explain you why. I really fancy all the acoustic foam and I'm prepared to live with all the extra weight, but the lacking cooling performance makes this case louder as the GPU fan starts spinning faster. The 180mm fan on top also doesn't convince me. It does more bad than good. Don't understand me wrong, it moves air and it is quiet, but it takes up a lot of space and I'd rather see the possibility to mount fans in the roof. If you want to use this case for housing your high-end system, I would strongly suggest you to get yourself some Noctua fans, as they are quiet, have high airflow. The default ones are good, but they are just not strong enough to cool this huge case. All the dust filters and also the mud vent really help to get this case clean, and the cable management is almost perfect. Maybe they could have made some holes between the main and power supply chamber, but it's quite okay. Some minor issues are that the door opens to the wrong side, which can be quite irritating if you have your case standing on your right side. The side panels also are sometimes hard to put back on, but you'll get used to it. And I also think it's a pity that they haven't included wheels with this case, in case you would want to put it on the floor due to the high weight. Overall, I think that Fractal Design has made a very good first try on the full tower market, making this an outstanding product that receives 4 out of 5 stars. I want to thank our friends at Fractal Design for sponsoring us with the Define XL case. Be sure to check their website once in a while because they have some new stuff for the upcoming year 2011. I want to thank you guys for watching the review. Make sure you subscribe, and for questions just send me an email or leave a comment below. I hope you will have some great holidays, Merry Christmas, and of course a Happy New Year. See you guys in 2011.